Welcome back to another episode of Trigger Warning Podcast with Titi Torres and me, your host, Kim Osorio. Titi, I keep trying to change up the intro, but like it really don't matter. It's just kind of like, hi everybody, we're back
guys.
again.
We're here.
And spring is coming, so it feels
nice.
good.
It feels good today. At least in New York, it feels good today.
Yeah. And it was raining yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was ugly, but it was warm.
Yeah. Well, I felt that it was a little too cold for me. I like it to be super hot.
I'd be trying to get my little gardening on, right? Mm-hmm. But it's really hard. Like I cannot, it's harder than I thought, but each season, every spring, when spring comes, I try to plant, and I start with basil, right? But if you don't stay on top of it, that's it. Like your plants die. I got peppers last year, and I was really excited. We talk about the peppers?
So you're getting better each season.
Yeah, did I talk about the little peppers I was growing?
Yeah, you told me on the last couple of episodes ago.
I keep talking about the same stuff, right? This excites me. This really excites me. I planted Scotch bonnet now, jalapeno peppers, so I'm waiting for those. And obviously I have the basil. And last year I tried tomatoes and it didn't work. Tomatoes are hard, but I'm gonna figure out tomatoes.
I love that. Mm-hmm. So let's get into let's talk. Let's get into that.
You don't want to talk about my tomatoes?
No, I'm proud of your tomatoes, but
No,
we gotta keep the show going. I'm proud of your
tomatoes.
I'm proud of your tomatoes. I don't personally like tomatoes, but
why?
I'm proud of your tomatoes.
But do you garden?
No, I don't.
She doesn't want to talk about my
I
gardening.
hire a gardener for my house in Connecticut. I hire a gardener.
Okay.
But I don't garden. I like to say this is what I like things to look like, but I don't garden. I do have an area that I can garden. Yes, I do have an area, but I don't garden.
You know, I'm excited about it. I went to a school in the Bronx, and shout out to that school. I don't want to say the name of the school because, I don't know, I just feel like I should talk to the school before I just mention the school, even though I want to shout them out, and I don't have the right information about the name of the school. CompSci.
Okay.
It came to me, guys. It came to me. And the students were gardening, and they had like this rooftop, and I was so impressed by them. So shout out to them. They're in the Bronx, and they had their own garden, and they were teaching the kids about that, which in the event that anything happens, I just feel like it's something that we don't talk about, but we should be able to grow our own food.
Hey, if that's your thing, gardening is your thing, and like you have a green thumb, then do it. It's something that you need to have patience for and passion for, and like, you know, it's a hobby for some folks, you know. It's a way to stay in fit, like, you know.
It is, but maybe I kind of like have become obsessed because everything I see online is about how bad processed food is for us and how, you know, just this country is overweight, and it's my trauma coming out because I'm thinking we should be able to feed ourselves, right? And it's something that, like, if something were to happen, this big moment where everybody's like, what if, you know, it went down, like how do you feed yourself if you don't know how to grow food? So I'm ready for it.
Okay.
If it happens, I'm gonna be eating tomatoes and jalapeno peppers. But my mom has really started gardening, and it's been.
She can garden. Your mom?
She's growing squash the size of, I don't even understand who she's growing the squash for. Broccoli, so she's been gardening. No, it's just something that I think.
So maybe it's like a new hobby that's passed down to you.
Maybe it's in my blood, right?
Yeah, maybe it's in your
blood. You
blood.
have no interest in gardening. You're making your own food. Okay.
Like my mom, she's into plants. I'm not into that either.
At all?
Mm-mm. Nope. No green thumb. No desire. How much do you cost? To garden? Okay, here you go. I need these flowers to be ready by spring.
I don't know. I'm getting into my home economic thing. Like, I don't know.
That's great.
I
But I did say I do want to find a hobby. Like I
Right.
do want to find something that is me. I mean, outside of the gym, you know, I
Right.
don't know what that is yet. I'm still
Right.
trying to figure that part out.
Right.
Like I don't know if it's like taking dance classes or like finding some type of hobby. I've been challenging myself to do that. But right now my hobby is just like so like based around my child that I don't want to add anything else to my schedule.
Okay.
So maybe when he's off to college and he's older, then I can free
Right.
up some time.
So I'll move away from the gardening. But if you like to garden, hit me up. Give me some tips.
So let's get into Let's Talk, right? Mm-hmm. A lot is going on in hip hop right now between the arrest of Big U and Yellow Beezy and Fabio Foreign. There is a lot going on. So I want to start with Yellow Beezy.
Who is that?
Obviously, he's a rapper. Oh, you don't know who he is?
Girl, when you said let's get into hip hop, I'm like, who is Yellow Beezy?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, school me.
He's a rapper from Dallas.
Okay.
And allegedly he has had some beef with this other artist, Mo3, over the years, right?
Okay.
And it has been alleged that Mo3 allegedly had Yellow Beezy's car shot up. And then in retaliation, he hired a hitman to kill Mo3, which was another popular rapper coming out of the Dallas area.
Okay.
And so now he has been indicted on murder charges.
Okay.
And the internet is just like putting all the pieces together. And it's crazy because I'm always like, you can't have your foot in both. At some point, you have to learn how to transition. You can't be a popular rapper and still
Was he
be
a
in the
popular
streets.
rapper?
Yes, he was.
How popular was he?
He had a hit record.
When?
Like, I would say,
Because I
A
ain't never
few-
heard of
well-
a Yellow Beezy.
well, Kim, you're not the demo.
Okay.
He is popular amongst the younger generation, and he's also a regional rapper too. So he's very popular
Right.
in the Texas,
The Texas area.
Midwest area. But his records did chart. And
So he
make
had
some-
more than one record.
Yeah.
So this is when? Like, when did he pop?
I would say like before the pandemic, and he had some hits after, but like the big one was like before the pandemic.
What was the name of his song?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Come on, he's not that big. If you don't remember the name of his song,
He is to some. He's a big rapper to some.
Okay.
I wouldn't say he is like the biggest, but if you're from that area, you definitely
Yellow Beezy.
You definitely know who he is.
is it Beezy or Beasley? I'm just trying to get the story right.
Beezy.
Beezy.
Yes.
Yellow Beezy.
Yellow Beezy. That is
Now,
hilarious.
what does that name mean? Do we know? Like, where do they get these rap names from?
Do we care?
I do, because first of all, I need to understand the Yellow
Do we
Beezy.
care?
And
he's yellow. He's light skinned, I guess. That's why. I don't know.
Okay. And
But I
Beezy is
also-
his name?
Beezy is his rap name. His government name is not. His government name is not that.
And how old is he? Do we know? Is he in his 20s, 30s? Because some of these rappers for these young kids, they really are in their 40s. And they just starting to pop. And
Hold
so
on,
I'm
I'm trying to
like,
get his
they
real
say
name.
it's for the younger community. Oh, this guy is popping, but they be like 45. It's a lot of 45-year-olds
He's
trying
not.
to act like they're in their 20s.
He's not.
So he's a 20. Because I want to know his age before I get to the like, okay.
So the song that was released in 2017 that was a big one is dang, I was going to play it, but I forgot. We can't play audio
No.
without getting
No.
it cleared. That's on Me. Hit was the name of his album. And his age, let me see. 33.
33.
He's young.
It's young to some, but when I was 20, a 33-year-old was old to me.
but he's young. He's young.
33 could be middle
But
age.
when he started in 2017, obviously he was much younger. But when it comes to men in the rap game, 33 is young. They don't care.
You know, men get the pass of like, you
Yeah.
know, if we 30, you know, we young. If a woman was 33, she'd be old. Okay, so he's 33.
So let me go through these court documents because we're going off track. So
Yes,
let me
but,
go through
but
this
we're going
court-
off track because I don't know that I care.
Okay, you don't care, but to
Do
the
you really
audience,
care?
I do care because
My thing is all of them are getting indicted. So
right. So I want to go through these court documents. So according to the court documents, they're alleging that Kewan White carried out the murders in retaliation to an incident that took place prior, where Yella Beezy felt like he was responsible for taking shots at him previously. Now, they say that that Yella Beezy paid him to kill Mo3.
Murder for hire.
Murder for hire.
And was this another rapper?
Yeah, this was another rapper, Mo3, who died. So his bond, so Yella Beezy went to court. His bond was set at $2 million. So now he's going to be fighting. Now he's going to be fighting a murder charge, you know. And I'm quite sure everyone involved will also be wrapped up in this, including the guy he hired to kill him. He's also been indicted as well. So that's what's happening in that situation. Now, I don't know if you've been following the Big U situation.
I have been following the Big U. That's a little bit more in my demo, right? But here's the thing about the Yella Beezy thing that I want to say, because I feel like a lot of time we get wrapped up in this conversation about hip hop artists who are being indicted and being arrested. And that's why I was really asking you background. Because I wasn't just asking you background to be funny, even though I was trying to be a little funny. I was asking you background on his career, because sometimes it's, yes, you know, a crime is committed and people are getting indicted and it has a lot to do with the music and it's hip hop, but sometimes it's just some criminals doing some criminal shit and they happen to have a rap record that they put out. Now, I don't know enough about this artist to know whether or not there's any ties within the music industry, and if the, you know, music industry and hip hop is connected to what happened, or if he's just in the streets.
No,
And that's why I'm like, who is Yella Beezy, and does he have a record?
So Mo3 and Yella Beezy kind of had this rivalry within the rap game. Like, they come from the same place. It's the same thing with the Memphis artists who passed away, and said Young Dolph, and he had a beef with Gotti's brother, and like they come from that Memphis, that Memphis kind of clique. It's kind of the same thing between these two.
Okay, so
two Dallas rappers.
They have a pre-existing rivalry between each other, and then this happens. Okay,
yes.
All right. Because I didn't hear a Yellow. I gotta know, because I was like, I don't know how this is hip hop.
Yeah, but Kim, your version of hip hop is different than what's this version of hip hop nowadays. So you just gotta like not.
My version of hip hop is what hip hop was and is to me, right? Like a lot of what's going on, hip hop has changed so much. It's now an industry, a music industry.
Yeah, but I want to say you can't just like live in that box though.
No,
like,
I can. I really can.
Okay, well,
I can live in that box because I report from a place of this is my world, and I'm going to talk about what is relevant to me, my generation. See, you and I have very different careers because you're still in the thick of it, right? You're at a radio station, you have a job to do, and you have to keep yourself up to date with this type of thing. For me, it becomes more of a cultural thing. Like there's nothing in my career that makes me have to know about someone like that. So like when I think about how authentically hip hop I am, it comes from a place of I kind of don't really work in the industry anymore. Like I don't. Media, yes, I follow, but as a journalist, and this is important for me because I've talked to a lot of younger journalists who are coming up in this game. I have aged out of that space. So I don't consider myself to be in that industry. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's to me, it don't generate me no income. Like let's just keep it 100. Like none of that stuff makes me any money. And it's a sad thing because a lot of what has happened is with social media, just the whole era of hip hop journalists have changed. I still consider myself a hip hop journalist, but I don't consider a lot of people who do what they do and report these stories in this particular industry a hip hop journalist, because I don't think they're really doing enough research to be able to call themselves that. And I don't think they understand the purpose of why a lot of us got into hip hop journalism, you know, and I think it's just a different industry for me. So like a lot of those topics is very hard for me to even sit here and talk about because I don't really care about a Yellow Beezy. He don't affect me. I'm in New York. I get like, you know, I do have relationships, and I think that's where things are different, right? Because I have relationships, and I have relationships that help me earn income, right? And a lot of those relationships are in entertainment. But I think when we talk about what's culturally relevant, right, and we talk about these cases, it's kind of like I need to know those background things. Like when you just said they had a pre-existing beef, I didn't know that. Because I'm hearing about people getting indicted every day. I'm hearing about people getting arrested. How does this connect to hip hop, right? Like to me, we have to understand that before we could have the conversation. Like I can't talk about it, and I feel I
can't talk about it.
Just say I don't know. No, I'm saying because when we define something as hip hop, that's like a personal thing to me. Like I feel like as a journalist, like I remember we took our job so serious at The Source. So it's kind of like, how does that crime connect to hip hop, right? I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, we're defining so many things as hip hop, and the mainstream media does that to us as well. And I don't want to dilute everything that just us being in hip hop that we've worked towards with stuff that's just really street stuff. And hope that's a good segue into the Big U stuff, because it's, I kind of feel the same way. It's very cultural. I'm familiar with it, but how does it really connect to hip hop? And I know that there's a lot of background there.
Big U has been responsible, like he used to manage Nipsey Hussle.
Right.
He's been a part of like the culture for a very long time in terms of like being the person, if you were an artist outside of LA and had to quote unquote check in, he was that person that you had to go see in order to check in. And, at the time, he managed one of the most, to some people, prolific artists to come out, which was Nipsey Hussle.
Right. You know what? I didn't even really remember that he managed Nipsey, but it's because it's a West Coast thing. But I will say that I feel like when it comes to like the streets and hip hop, the lines get really blurred. And it's right now, for where we are, that is really putting a lot of people, a lot of business, and even the music in jeopardy. I just feel like,
but it's always been
our
there,
efforts
though.
are being like really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like overshadowed by what's going on in the streets.
But my point is the point I'm trying to make is it's always been there.
Right.
It's always been, because most of the street guys, when hip hop started, come from the streets. And a way to quickly clean up their money was to get into the rap game, because the rap game was just as easy as the street game. Flip a couple of records.
I get it.
It's from Jay-Z, we can go on and on. The 50 Cent beef with Supreme. We can go on and on and on.
Right.
Like it's easily they started a whole task force in New York, the hip hop police, because of the street violence that coincided with hip hop. These guys coming from the streets and trying to clean up their lives. So that's something that's always kind of existed in the culture. What is happening now, when you look at Lil Durk and his indictment, when you look at Big U, when you look at what's happening with Yellow Beezy, and the list goes, Young Thug, YFNL Lucci, YMW Melly, like the difference between that generation and this generation is social media and the internet. That's why it is such a bigger thing. And a lot of these guys commit crimes and they have it on social media. If you look at K-Flock, for example, K-Flock just was found guilty on all those charges. A big rapper, up-and-coming rapper coming out the Bronx here in New York, was supposed to be that dude. Had a record that the kids love, you know, young kid, indicted and found guilty on multiple charges. And he could possibly spend the rest of his life behind bars. And they say he was gang affiliated and this, and that. So like, you know, it's always been there. It's just now the internet is magnified. And then now you have a lot of YouTubers and bloggers. I just seen a special with Vlad and Academics and Whack 100 and all of these guys doing a podcast about these cases. And it was interesting because sometimes the bloggers and streamers, they amplify the street beefs on social media. They amplify it, and it creates more of a chaos than it actually does bringing the temperature down. Because now they got to feel like I got to do something because now it's just magnified. So, but my thing is, as history has always taught us through these cases throughout time, is that at some point you have to move away from the streets if you really want a successful career as an artist and have that longevity, because eventually it's going to catch up with you. And whatever, like, you posting on social media or you think is deleted and it's not deleted, and like WhatsApp app and all of these tools, like the technology that they use now is insane. And then sometimes I think like these artists can't be that dumb, but then I'm like, yo, like you gotta be that dumb. I was watching Asian Doll get into it with Cash Doll on social media, and she posted text messages between her and I guess one of her hitters about how they were going to shoot up Cash Doll's tour bus, but she said no because Cash Doll kids were in the car. You're literally posting text messages that is about conspiring to murder someone.
Okay, so I think
That's crazy.
Here's where like it. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. So did you know I was writing a book?
No.
About, okay, so I'll just say it on here. I have not talked about this. The deal was closed early January, but I'm writing a book called The People versus Hip Hop. And the book is about cases where hip hop artists have either been indicted or they've been sued. And it's really like a very analytical look at cases throughout hip hop history. So it goes all the way back to the case of Cool C when, and you know, look, I'm still writing it. So like I've had I organized my outline. So I might change it a little bit, right? But it was a book that I conceived about 5 years ago. I put together this outline to shop it around, and we just did the deal. But it's a very analytical look at these cases as they have come through and their connection to hip hop. So in each case, right, I really want to study whether or not it's an actual, like there's some times where it's connected to the music, it's connected to, you know, the artist and their, just like the magnification of what they've become, the fame. And then sometimes it's really not. It's really about there was a crime committed. This person just happened to be an artist, and now it's being framed as hip hop. So that's why it's called The People versus Hip Hop, because it's really a look into whether the United States justice system is against hip hop. And I think when you mentioned, and I wasn't ready for this conversation today even to say that, but when you mentioned the Hip Hop Task Force, that coming out of what happened and just the way a lot of these cases were covered is like part of the problem, right? Like that hip hop has become this culture where you now have, it's criminalized, right? It's very criminalized by the courts at times, and a lot of what has happened with these guys in the streets who have come from the streets, right, is that they've used hip hop to kind of like legitimize their way in the game, but really it's destroying the culture that we have, which and what hip hop was born of. So like, it's a topic that's very dear to me and that I'm currently writing about and working through, and every case is different. And I think, you know, again, the way we got here being the Diddy case, it's such a big deal because I feel like that is one of the biggest cases that hip hop has seen. But even in that case, as I'm studying it, I'm looking at what's going on, right? Not knowing which claim is true, not knowing, you know what I'm saying, what to think, but then seeing the video and seeing how, like, Puff is really, like, that's a RICO charge that they got on him. And I'm confused as a fan, as a lover of hip hop, as somebody who's been studying the culture. I'm so confused about the RICO of it all. And a lot of these artists are going down on RICO charges. So I think that for me, it's like such a bigger topic when we talk about case by case and like what's happening, because sometimes I just look at it and it's just, sometimes it's just the ignorance, right? Like what are y'all doing, right? Y'all out in the streets and your career might not be big enough, because if your career is at a certain level, you're leaving the streets alone. If you are achieving, I hope so. Because if you are at a certain level, and again, that's why the Little Durk case is so interesting to me.
But that's why my point is, well, that's my point. Little Durk was at the height of heights. The biggest right now. Young Thug, the biggest.
But these are like
Diddy. When you're
doing a murder for hire, it's kind of like, how could you have even really gone through that if you were an artist of a certain success? I don't even get it. Like, I don't even get it. I don't know the agenda. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like,
well, that's the thing. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes a lot of times. We don't know how tough it is for them to leave their streets and their corners and their communities that built them who they are. Hip hop was always the voice of the streets and the communities that these artists come from. And so you don't know how difficult it may be for them to leave or transition. You don't know if someone is being extorted or not extorted.
Right.
You don't know why they do what they do. Or get caught up in the things that they get caught up in. You don't know. You have to like let every case play out how it's going to play out.
I'm sorry, I got distracted from the mic. Did you see it? It was like at my knees.
So
I was like, the mic is too low. What's happening here?
You know, so it's a lot of times when you're dealing with these artists who come from, you know, the street life, you know, it's not as easy to just wrap your head around, I am this mega superstar, I now need to transition out of street life. Sometimes it pulls them back in and we don't know why. You know, but at some point
we have to stop.
But at some point you have to transition, and the people around you have to understand, like the guy who's at the top, you got to protect him at all costs. Like if I'm Little Durk, right? And I'm the one that's bringing in X amount of money to make sure that everybody's good, the person that's my right hand is supposed to make sure that I am making the right decisions, because if I fail, then we all lose out. We all lose out on whatever opportunity if I fail. It's the same thing how I feel about Puff. Like, the people around him should have been like, yo, I'm going to get you the help you need. I'm going to take you here. I'm going to make sure you do this. No, don't carry the guns. Don't do this.
But how do we know that they weren't?
We don't know.
Like, you know, exactly. Like, how do we know that they weren't trying to, like, stop him or, you know, everybody, maybe they weren't an enabler. I do think that it's possible that people told him, and maybe, and look at just the circle around him. Like, really, if you look at how it has changed, maybe the people that were around him did tell him, and maybe he got rid of them. I know straight up the last conversation that I ever had with Kanye was me disagreeing with something that he was doing. And that was it, the end of our professional relationship. And now I'm cool with it. Like, listen, what's not for you, and you're in control, and you want to pay the people that you want to pay. What can I say for that? But I can only be honest about how I feel about some of the decisions that you might be making. And that was the last conversation we had. I haven't heard from him since 2021 and 2022. And now I don't expect to hear from him, but I was working for him, and I was getting paid. And the minute I object to something that maybe you don't want to hear, then you're not talking to the person you need to talk. That's it. So you gonna hire the next person, and that's a nice little salary for people to have because he pays well. He pays well. So if I'm out and the next person comes in, they might learn from that and be like, well, the last person that said she disagreed, I'm not gonna do that because I'm gonna lose my money. And that's how it works. Like, people of a certain status employ people to be yes men and to enable them to do the things that they want to do. And when you start to object to that, I'm sure there's some people, that have honor still, but when you start to object to that, you out.
But at the end of the
So
day,
in the Diddy situation,
was it worth? But at the end of the day, was it worth you living up to your integrity and morals than to have a paycheck?
No.
So you would have rather had the
Because
paycheck.
if I had that check right now, I'd be a lot better. So no, it wasn't. So continue with the shenanigans and send me my check. Absolutely.
Wow.
Continue with the shenanigans. Because you know what? A lot of people, it's a lesson learned, right? I cannot control you as an artist.
Right, but you rather
I can't hold my mouth. I'm just saying that. Let me say this. I can't hold my tongue. I'm going to always be who I am. I'm going to always be honest. I'm going to always tell you how I feel.
So you would rather...
in hindsight, maybe there's a different way to go about it. Because...
But you would rather
I don't want to be a yes man.
Artist.
That's not what I'm saying. I don't want to be a yes man. But I am saying, when you say, was it worth it, right? Nothing that I said on that phone stopped him from doing what he wanted to do.
But at least
it stopped my check.
But you wasn't a participant in it though, because if you would have stayed there, then you would have been an enabler, and you would have been a yes man.
Listen, and I have a problem with enable culture for sure.
But what I'm saying is, you would have just been exactly who you said you didn't want to be.
I don't want to be that. No,
exactly.
And that's why I don't.
So that's why
I would have liked to keep the check.
But you can't have it both ways, though.
No, you can't. But in hindsight, I don't really care no more. It's because you see when someone is behaving a certain way, and you did what you did, then oh well. But would I have preferred to have my money?
But if that doesn't
would I have
align,
preferred to been paid?
But if that doesn't align with your morals, and that doesn't align with how you live your life, why would you want to be associated with that?
Well, that's why I don't stay in those places, right? I have an issue, right? Yeah. I cannot control my mouth. I cannot control my tongue. So I'm going to always tell you the truth. I'm also like a truth serum to people. They can't sit next to me and lie. I don't know if it's just I can't control my face. I can't I always have a smart remark to say. Like, I just have never been a yes man. I have never been that type. But I have also looked at the decisions that I've made in my careers and the opportunities that don't come based on the fact that I am who I am. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. We're telling the truth. The truth is that I have been honest my whole career. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it's paid off financially. It hasn't. Like, if we're being truthful about it, it hasn't. It is very hard when you get to a certain age to be able to maintain. That's why a lot of us have to shift. I had to change. I had to go into television. I'm doing things now to shift.
But maybe that was where you were supposed to be.
It had to have been spiritually, emotionally, yes, but it hasn't paid off financially. And so for me, when I look at people in the industry, when I look at yes men and what they do, it takes a certain moral character, right, to be able to move out of that. And you might not be in that space. And I moved out of it. Now, sometimes I look back and I'd be like, well, maybe, you could have done that differently. And you might have reaped the benefits that some of these people have now. There's a lot of people in positions that I see that I'm like, oh, wow, that person got that? And then I'm not being a hater. I don't want to say it like that. But financially, it has not paid off to be able to tell people to their face what I think about them. Maybe it's my energy. I don't know. It has not. It has cut that right there. People are like, we don't need her around.
I mean, I would look at that situation as that's exactly not where I should be. Like I don't know. I don't know if I can stay working for someone or be in a situation where I know things are happening that are not aligned with my morals and codes. Like I couldn't be in a situation where like some of these artists and look at some of the things that they're doing, some of the violation of the law and be like, yeah, I'm cool with that because I'm getting a check. Like I couldn't do it.
Listen, I hear you. I'm the same way. I'm always out. I'm just saying that hasn't paid off career-wise, unfortunately. So maybe there's a compromise there. I'm still learning. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm still learning. Maybe it's the way I'm doing things. Maybe it's taking myself out of certain situations so that I don't have to be the person to tell them. Because it's not just about the artist. In any corporation that you go into, it's the same thing, right? Sometimes you don't align with the company's objective, right? Or sometimes you're feeling like, you know what? This is like, I just had a conversation today about a company I used to work for, and I called I called the person that I worked for, and we had a big falling out a couple of years ago, and I said some things I probably shouldn't have said. Like I said, I cannot hold my tongue. And I went off, and I used the F-bomb, and I went crazy in a corporate environment because it got to the point where I just couldn't hold my tongue. And I called him, I said, he ain't nothing but a white-collar scammer. That's what I said. And it's someone who deals in millions of dollars, right? Who has been very successful in the tech industry and has been able to start company. And I said, I was like, he ain't nothing but a white collar scammer. And I know a scammer when I see one. And I'm gonna treat you accordingly, whether you're a scammer with a white collar or you're a scammer in the hood. And I just feel like, for
was
me.
he truly a scammer?
Listen, do I think he was a scammer? Yeah. You out here scamming millions of dollars from, scamming happens across the board, right? So I know scamming in the hood,
right?
And I get that, but they do that same thing in corporate America, right? They'll start a company, they'll sell it, they get in money, they have the right relationships to be able to put things in position. And I was working with a company and it was, benefiting me for a while. And then after a while, things kind of got real and I couldn't sit there and just be okay with it, right? Now, this is not even connected to hip hop. This is something completely different.
No, I'm just asking.
I just wasn't okay. Like, I was like, I don't like the way it's, this is going down. And I said something, right? And it backfired on me.
Right, but if it was the right thing to do, and if this person was scamming people and it was illegal, then...
I don't know that type of scamming is illegal. I don't know that.
Because I know sometimes it is very hard. I mean, I work in corporate, right?
Right.
I work in corporate, and sometimes it's hard for people to work in corporate positions because they don't know how to deliver things. And I think, that's why I've been so successful in corporate America, because I have adapted on how to deliver things, especially when you don't agree or don't like something or don't feel something is going a certain way, right? And a lot of times it takes just having the foresight and understanding of how each person ticks. You can't say something to somebody like you would say to another person, right? So it's like sometimes it's about how you deliver. Each person digests things differently. You have to like really be on your toes when it comes to like that on a corporate level, especially when you're like managing big teams and all of that stuff. So I understand like how tough it is to be in that environment, and it's super, super competitive, right? And I had a girlfriend who, you know, is kind of the same way. I'll say it how it is. I don't care. Da 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 da. And I'm like, well, you can't stand on tables and just be like, da 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 da. Like, no, because you're not going to get back in those rooms. But yes, you can say how you feel, and it's about how you deliver it sometimes.
But that kind of, I look at that, right? Like the same conversation we're having about an artist, their brand and their world is their corporate environment.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the same thing. So even maybe looking at myself and be like, well, maybe it was how you delivered it. I don't know. I think I was very, you know, careful in my delivery of, I don't think that that's the right thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like corporate, you know, America has their way of communicating, and they're going to do it their way, but it's really the same BS when it comes down to it. So the Puffs and the Kanyes and these guys who surround themselves with yes men really are just doing the same things that these white collar criminals are doing. But now they're being indicted, right, on RICO charges. And you know, the Puff thing is weird because obviously when we saw the video, emotionally for me as a woman, I was against all of the things that he was being accused of doing. So I'm like, I don't know what to believe. But when I look at that case and I start to unpack that case and try to figure out what's real, what's not real, what's being thrown at him just because of where he comes from, like now I'm conflicted in my views on it because I know what I stand for, right? So like it's very complex situation to even discuss. And I'm like, you know, and I look at just the landscape of journalists out there and how they're covering this stuff. It's just irresponsible to me. So, you know, I'm just waiting to see what happens because I don't even know what's true anymore.
Well, I mean, you see things like the Little Rod accusations that came out and what he filed in his lawsuit. You know, the judge just threw out 5 of those, and then some folks are not even reporting on that. Threw out 5 of those accusations because there wasn't no proof. Didn't meet the burden of proof on those.
Right.
Tony Bugsby, the lawyer who did the 1-800 hotline, the Diddy hotline, he just got moved off the case in New York because
he removed himself.
Well,
he removed himself, and he has. But this is about the reporting. This goes down to the reporting.
But he removed himself from the case, but he should have been removed himself from the case. Why did it take this long for him to remove himself from the case? Because he was sure enough poking his chest out there prior to that he was well within the means to practice in New York.
But he can practice in New York. It's the districts, right? So the Southern District of New York was where those cases were filed. So like, and I think procedurally there's steps that you need to take that maybe he took some of the steps, maybe his colleagues took. And I think the media is taking this story and every media outlet is pushing their own agenda on it. So like I've seen pieces to even that Busby story that's kind of like, all right, there's, you know, this side of things, and it's all become really, it's not even about the case, it's not about the procedure, it's not about the accusations. This case has really become about 2 petty people going back and forth in the media, using their own agenda, right? Two petty entities, I'll say, right? Everyone pushing their own agenda to their media relationships. And I'm watching how the media reports, and I can see where the media on one side is taking what they're hearing from the publicists and the access that they are having, right? Like they might have access to, you know, Rock Nation or whoever's coming from like Puffy and Jay-Z's side, and they're taking that information and they're spewing it out with that angle. And then the other side of the media, who have the relationships with Busby and with, you know, people in Texas and who maybe understand the court system a little bit better, right? They're taking exactly what's being fed to them and they're pushing it out. So it's two separate agendas in the media pushing out what they want you to know. And it gets really hard to weed that, you know, to kind of get in the weeds and like get to the bottom of what the true accusations are, if there are any victims. Like, that stuff is clouded by two people's agendas. And now they're really just against each other and being vindictive. And so, like, when stories like that come out and I watch and I study the media coverage, right, I'm looking for holes in everybody's story, on the Busby side, on this side, and I find the holes so easily. And that's why I say the journalists out there aren't really doing their jobs, because they're just reporting what's being told to them by the other side. It's the same thing, like, I can break down that situation, and I know we don't have time, so we'll move on. But I can break down a lot of that situation because when it came out, I did a lot of research and homework. I read all the cases and the complaints that came out. I read everything coming through, like Busby's side. I read everything coming through Diddy and Jay-Z's side, and I saw it for what it was. And a lot of people even criticized me. They were like, "You're taking," I'm like, "I'm not taking the side. I don't have no investment in either." And I'm just saying, are y'all really paying attention to what's going on? Mm-hmm. Because it was not about really a victim coming forward, whether no one even knows whether that was said, but like, there's so many things. There's private investigators that had no business doing what they did on that side, right? Like, when you really look and open up that case, it's a lot of pettiness from people who both sides are concerned about their bottom line and their money.
And it should be.
That's what it is. It's really
but
not
it should
about
be.
what
If somebody
it was.
accuses you of something and it impacts your bottom line, why wouldn't you be concerned?
No, I get it. You should be concerned about that. But the media should be looking a little bit deeper at what's really going on instead of just spewing out what one particular side wants you to tell your audience. And that was the issue that I had.
So when you say you're conflicted on a Puff thing, what part of it are you conflicted on?
On so much. Which one are you talking about? Because like his case, I think I'm conflicted on what he's being accused of, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, like when I think about a RICO charge, when I think about the sex trafficking, and I think we're trying to break down what was really going on. And I feel like, you know, seeing what we saw in that video, and I think there was an agenda for putting that out when they did put it out, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, like it happened, 2016?
Whose agenda? The prosecution?
Whoever was trying to get him for however they was trying, or for however long they were trying to bring him down, mm-hmm. right? Like, for a long time, I think hip hop has been under the microscope mm-hmm. by, you know, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, mm-hmm. but by the government. For a long time, people in positions of power in hip hop are being watched. And I don't know who's guilty of what, right? Mm-hmm. Like when we think about even, you know, when you bring up the hip hop police, I'm like, ooh, there's so much there, because that's a whole other episode. You know, Vlad did an interview with Bill Courtney. It was like a 2-hour interview, and I watched the whole thing. He's an ex-NYPD officer. I watched the whole thing, and this man was talking about like all of these high-profile cases in hip-hop that were connected to the streets, and what was going on in a police department, and what they were finding, and what they were listening. It was fascinating to me. I was like, first of all, where did he find this guy? Mm-hmm. Right? You know, like you talk about what they say, you know what they say about Vlad. So it's kind of crazy. It's like, how did you find this guy? Right? And then why is he speaking on all of these
What do they say about
cases?
Vlad, though? The only thing I hear them say is that he's the Fed.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
He's the Fed. But then you go out there and you get one of the best interviews with an ex-NYPD detective that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And this guy is speaking on everything, like from 50 Cent shooting to, World and all that stuff, the Hot 97 shooting. Like, he's talking about all of these major crimes that have taken place in hip hop. And I don't know if he's on the force. I guess he's retired, right? So, like, I don't know what happens when you retire as a cop.
So
like,
did he work on those cases?
I don't know. He's in the media talking about all of them. So he must have had some sort of access, unless they just put some random, ex-NYPD detective out there to say all of these things. I mean, he's talking about people on a personal level, like walking, like how these guys in hip hop knew him, and it's crazy. It's like a movie. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, when I see stuff like that, I'm like, we really don't know what's going on, because this was happening, 20 years ago? Mm-hmm. And they were putting things out in the media that they want to feed to the media on both sides. The NYPD was putting stuff out, hip hop, people connected to hip hop in positions of power that might have had their own, they were putting things out. You got to watch that interview.
Yeah, I got to check it out. I want to get to the Lizzo on the Lizzo
that's right, and our
Carisha.
time is running out. Oh my God! And
I know we have about 10 more minutes.
Like not even, like 7 minutes.
Okay, so really quickly, don't do that. Lizzo and Young Miami, Carisha, aka Young Miami, she was on Shannon Sharp's podcast, and they were talking about body images.
Yes.
And Carisha was basically saying, if you're too fat, like, they got something to say. If you go get a BBL, they got something to say. And she said, and Shannon asked for an example. She's like, look at Lizzo. When she was fat, they were like, ew. But now that she looks good, they say you lost too much weight. And so Lizzo kind of, I guess, took offense to the ew part of it.
Yeah.
And she FaceTimed Carisha during her live on Twitch, and she, spoke about it and whatnot. What's your thoughts on that?
I saw that, and I caught that Lizzo felt like ew, like was too much.
What do you mean by the ew?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say I think Lizzo looks great.
She looks amazing.
I'm like very happy for her that she's gone on this journey. And I think that, the audience definitely has been very, very critical of her. But, Lizzo was wilding sometimes with it, right? Like, she was, like a lot of
Well, you can't say the audience
girls
was being critical when you put it out there for them to see.
like, that's what I'm saying. Like, she was doing a lot, right? So it's great to see her journey, and maybe she masterminded the whole thing, and, look, it worked for her career. But when she called Carisha on her Twitch, first of all, I said, okay, they had a conversation beforehand. So I already knew whatever real feelings that she had, they've already discussed them. I don't know if you caught that. Mm-hmm. But she's like, let's call her. It was all very calculated and set up. Let's call her. And she's like, hey. So, the nosy person in me wanted to know what was the real conversation that went on between them. Because that was a produced conversation that she put on her Twitch. Because she just calls her up, and then they have it, and it is very like nicey nice, and it was kind of put out there like, no, this is what I meant. But, I would have felt the same way if someone talked about me and was like, ew. I would have wanted to call and check them. And I think when I log on to a Twitch, I want to see that conversation. Yeah. How did that really go down? Because did you think that she was being shady when she said that?
No, I don't think she was being shady. I think she was authentically in that moment of how girls talk. She was trying to make a point, and the point was that no matter where you at in your weight loss journey or in your journey of body imaging, nobody is ever going to like what you do to yourself. So ultimately, you just gotta love what you do. When you're too fat, they got something to say. When you're too skinny, they got something to say. When your teeth ain't right, they got something to say. You get it fixed, you get it, like, because we're in media, we've been in media for so many years, and because, like, I do a lot of hostings and like all the stuff that goes on Hot 97 YouTube, and like the comments can be very, very hard.
Right.
And so, like, you fix the things that are wrong, and then when you fix them, they still have something to say. You lose weight, they still have something to say. But when you're fat or you out of shape, they got something to say. So I think what she was just basically trying to say, and she just used Lizzo as an example of someone who they, you know, had a lot to say about. I felt like and I also felt like that's kind of like how, like, girls talk in their inner circle, right? I felt like she was just comfortable with Shannon.
Right.
You know how we talk, you be like, ooh, girl, you know what I mean? And then on top of her Miami accent, I don't feel like it was shade. I feel like it was just naturally how girls be talking in their inner circles.
Sidebar, I never want to be the dude that you say, I got so comfortable talking to you, I felt like, ooh, girl. But Shannon Sharp definitely seems like the,
but he is
the type
right?
that you be like, girl, but you forgot you was talking to a dude. Y'all ever had that moment where you're talking to a guy that you're so cool with and you have a friendship and you just feel like saying, girl? I never want to be that man. He's definitely feels like that man. But anyway, yes, so like she was comfortable. I do have questions. I want to know, like, were Lizzo and Carisha cool before that? Like, because that, I wanted to know when Lizzo mentioned it. I was surprised that she even brought it up and she covered it. And like,
I don't know if they were cool before that. That's a good question.
Yeah, because I want to know, like I said, I want to know what that conversation was like when she first heard it, because you're not going to go on Twitch if you don't really know what to expect. And with this live phone call, right? Because it could have went totally left.
But Lizzo also
so they clearly had a convo before. I mean, I would think so.
Yeah, of course. But Lizzo also can't act like she wasn't like on the blogs heavy for her weight, no pun intended.
Right.
But she was on the blogs, and her weight is a thing that people talk about.
Right.
And they say some really hurtful things. And here's the thing that I always loved about Lizzo. She always loved who she was.
Yes,
that's the thing. I loved about her the most. It's like she didn't care. Like, you know, big Lizzo, you know, smaller Lizzo, in between Lizzo, whatever y'all want to say about the girl, she don't care.
Right.
She's comfortable in her own skin.
I give her that for sure.
And I think that's the message out of all of it. At the end of the day, do what you want to do. What camera am I looking at? Do what you want to do that pleases you, because you're never going to please the people in the comments, ever. So if you want to get a boob job, get a boob job. If you want to go on Ozempic, go on Ozempic. If you want to get a BBL, get a BBL. Because at the end of the day, the only person that looks in the mirror is you. But don't let the comments or people's opinion dictate your decision.
Question. Did Shannon Sharp say something like she had gotten surgery? Did he make a reference to her getting surgery?
Oh, I missed that part. Did he?
Oh, we got to watch it again. I guess, I know we don't have any time left, but we got to watch it again, because I felt like at one point he said something about surgery, and I'm like, wait, did he just say that she got surgery? I don't think Lizzo said she got surgery at all. Right?
I never heard Lizzo confirm surgery. It was just but people say it on the internet. People say, like, she gets surgery, she's Ozempic, Lizzo. Like, people just say the most outlandish things, and you don't know. I mean, I know a lot of celebrities that just don't share their weight loss journey because they don't want to get picked apart.
Right.
So they just post gym pics all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. And oh my God, we could have talked. Oh, okay, we have no more time. When you said gym pics, I'm like, we should have talked about that guy that went viral for his fitness stuff.
I'm so sick of him. Can he just go away?
I want to talk about that.
No, I want him to go away.
Time.
I want him to go away. First of all, that feels like he paid the blogs to be on everybody's blog.
Okay, let's table it for next time, because we
I
like
want him to
literally
go.
have less than 30 seconds.
I'm so sick of him.
I want to talk about that next time. Oh my God. I feel like we ran out of time, and that you just said that, and it sparked that in my mind.
I'm so sick of him.
Wait a minute, the viral guy.
I don't even think he's viral. I think he pays people to post him, to be honest, because if you pay attention to how people see the blogs, they all write kind of the same caption.
Tell us what you want to talk about. We got to close the show. Thank you guys for sticking with us on Trigger Warning. I'm Kim Osorio at Kim Osorio Media. Subscribe to my YouTube.
TT Torres, 3 T's, ORREZ. You can subscribe to my YouTube as well. And bye, guys.
Bye. We'll see you guys next time. I know we talk too much. We talk too much. We just went on and on.